Great to have you back here on the Morning Show on the Raj News. I'm Adesua Omorwan.
I'm Rafal Yoseni.
And I'm Shaitu Atigari. Good morning. The much talked about special envoy visit to South Africa by the Director General of the National Intelligence Agency, Ahmed Abubakar, has come and gone. The special envoy meeting, which came about as a result of violence in South Africa and developments in Nigeria around South African businesses, was very fruitful.
Kushela Diko, the spokesperson of the South African president, also said in the statement sent to the news agency of Nigeria that President Buhari's state visit will reinforce the bond between both countries.
Joining us now to discuss using international laws, diplomacy, strategies, and of course, what to expect from the Nigeria's envoy, Ahmed Abubakar, who was in South Africa recently, is Joe Nwokedi, a legal practitioner. Thank you so much for joining us on the Morning Show today.
It's my pleasure.
Now, the special envoy is back. Details of his reports are not yet known, although we've seen highlights of it coming from the South African side. How important do you think it is to make this report public and to carry Nigerians along?
I think it's very, very necessary they do so. And it's not a kind of information that should be kept in the cooler. Because the tension is still on. Because recent indications points to the fact that South Africans are still boiling. We'll see groups emerging from the streets, from the Students' Union government. They're still threatening. So there's such a visit I consider so crucial for the way forward between the two giants of Africa. Should be made known. So Nigeria should start in earnest to make preparations on what's next step to take. So as to know whether we are still continuing with evacuation of our people from South Africa, or whether we are telling them, look, hold on, we have like a kind of fruitful discussion that will impact positively on your stay in there. Or, okay, look at the issues that South Africans complain. Look at the issues they raise as regards to your way of life there, which you are going to look into. But right now, we are giving you hope that definitely it may not be as bad as it is. So they should communicate to people. They should communicate to the president because urgent issues require urgent information so as to know how to deal with it.
Okay. You talked about evacuation, but evacuation has started. Pretty much in earnest.
Yes.
We hear of air peace. We hear of 400 people.
It's voluntary. People that are willing to.
People that are willing to. People that are willing to.
Not that we are evacuating. But officially.
I mean, it's not official, but I mean, air peace doesn't fly South Africa route.
Yes.
If not, it's still a sense of officialdom in all of this conversation. Another pressing question is something happened yesterday. I think it was Fanny Kennedy that tweeted that he's in South Africa. Some people have started again. A lot of people are saying the international outlook and the diplomatic outlook between Nigeria and South Africa, I mean, what should be the way forward? Some people say the reactions are knee-jerk on the part of South Africa and they've not come out to say anything. I mean, what should we do at this time? We remember the case of Umar Diko, how that Nigeria and Britain strained relationships in the 80s, grounded the Caledonian plane here in Lagos, grounded the Nigerian Airways plane and things like that. Should we up the tempo or wait for South Africa to come back, or we take them to the African Union courts?
Oh, that's exactly where we're having issues. Because this is something that our laws, I mean, national laws should step into, like, address and redress also. Because look at Universal Declaration on Human Rights and the context. So in the course of that Universal Declaration on Human Rights, they made it in such a way that countries ought to domesticate the laws before it will become enforceable. But that not ought to be. It's supposed to be a law that will assume kind of enforcement all over the whole country that's signed. About 48 countries. No country actually voted against it. Only 2 countries didn't vote. But no country voted against it, showing that the world at that point ratified it, accepted it, and then submitted to it. So that law should have assumed automatic force of law on all the countries of the world. And then we have African Charter on Human and People's Rights, also governed OAU, which South Africa is also a member. Now all these laws, they have to do with preservation of human rights, right to life, right to dignity, right not to be tortured, right not to be subjected to slavery, right to your opinion, to your thoughts, and all that. And then, if such a right is breached, then what are the remedies? Subject that person to your own internal laws, and then let that person follow the provisions of the law. But now South Africa is violating that. They are committing heinous crimes against humanity, against Africans, against the world. So United AU should step in to sanction South Africa to come out with measures on how to permanently resolve this issue. It's a big challenge on the continent because the foreigners, in reference to all the statements they made, they mentioned Mozambique, Zimbabwe, Zambia, Nigeria, Ghana, and the rest of the African countries. They're not even in a haste to mention foreign countries, China, India, Russia, and all that. So now it's more or less an African issue. So I was expecting that AU should summon an emergency meeting. I don't even think that Buhari should be busy going to South Africa. He should be running African presidents. To the Ghanaian president, the president of Africa, to summon AU meeting to discuss the uprising in South Africa. What is our president going there to do? To go and start begging them to leave our people? When they have their own people all over, no matter how the quantum of persons you have in any place, that person is your people.
Maybe if we change the narrative, sorry, just Shaitan. Maybe if we change the narrative, and this might sound very harsh, I'll call it what it is. Genocide. Yes. Maybe people would rise up. And I know there are international laws and conventions against the genocide happening of African brothers in South Africa. Should we start to call it that word? Maybe the UN will look at it very strongly when we say, okay, this is a precursor to genocidal activities.
Of course it is. When people take lives, wantonly, without any reason, without any court of law, without established offense or crime committed, just because they are not particularly your people. It's genocide. Because if you're saying, okay, look, we are fighting drug barons in South Africa, we are fighting prostitution in South Africa, including our own people, because there is no how South Africa will exclusively exclude their people from the crimes being committed in South Africa. So now they just remove their people and they say blaming everything on the foreigners, meaning that they just selected a particular segment of people, carved them and then named them something in order to wipe them away from existence. So it is a genocide. They are just because South Africans are also committing crimes. There is no way they can say they are free from all the crimes being committed in South Africa. Have they also included their own people that are also conspiring to commit that crime? Have they also included their own people that are also in prostitution business and drug business, in other crimes being committed there? So it's genocide, because genocide has to do with a particular kind of people being placed with a kind of hatred that will be so much propagated and so much advertised that people around will now focus on how to remove them from the surface of the earth. That's what is going on in South Africa. They earmark all the foreigners, nickname foreigners criminals, foreigners drug addicts, foreigners this, foreigners that. Foreigners responsible for your no working. I'll ask them one question. Do you have foreigners in your ministries? Do foreigners took over your banks? Are they your presidents? Are they your ministers? Are they your ambassadors? Are they your judges there? What are these foreigners doing in South Africa? What job are they taking? If you're talking of job, you say they have taken over your legislative arm of the government. They have taken over your judicial arm. They are taking over your companies. They've taken over your ministries. They've taken over your police. They've taken over your army. Are they there? The question is not, they're not there. So which South Africa are they taking? These are peasant traders moving around the street trying to get something from whatever their efforts can give them to eat. Now you are now tagging them as people as a threat to your own survival. Are they creating jobs for you? Are they part of your employment? I mean, national employment, state employment. They are not. So just like genocide, because South Africans are becoming, they're trying to justify the apartheid. They're justifying the reasons the whites gave against what transpired years back. Because now, what's the problem? If you accuse somebody, if any country should accuse Africa of taking their economy, it should be like Canada, where Africans are ministers, we are here in the UK, where Africans are in the parliament, and other places. They're not saying that.
Yes, real quick. You mentioned something earlier. You said that this is an urgent situation that needs an urgent solution. Now, even at the World Economic Forum last week, the former Minister of Education, Obi Ezekwesili, said that there are a few steps that should be taken. One, they should have open communication with some of the Nigerians whose businesses and homes were destroyed during this duration of xenophobia attacks. Also, we've seen that some South Africans have been arrested in perpetrating these crimes. However, we haven't heard any feedback from South African government saying that these are the steps that are going to be taken against some of these South African citizens, as well as also kind of putting a compensation for those that have lost their lives and lost their properties to an extent. Why is it that we are still lagging behind in doing these things? Like you said, we are having an envoy going to South Africa. They've come back from South Africa, and we still don't have any clues as to what the conversations are. Why is so much time being taken as opposed to actions being taken by the Nigerian government?
It's very, very pathetic. I mean, like I said, I still repeat that. Urgent issues require urgent action. Because now the businesses of Nigeria and South Africa, what they labor for years, like on the line. And then we also know that we have something here owned by South Africans. I'm not saying that we should take to streets to start destroying them. But our government should make a statement. But why I'm not even looking at it as Nigerian affairs, that it involves Africa. It's not because in their clip, all the things they said, they don't mention Nigeria, single Nigeria out as a country. They also mention Nigeria. I had they mention Ghana, they mention Mozambique, Zambia, Zimbabwe, and the rest of African countries. That's why Africa should be the focal point on how to deal with this issue. Because if South Africa should get away with it, another country will do it. On the Nigerian part, because our people are there, we should have a kind of passionate interest in what is going on in South Africa. The president should not be dilly-dallying. The president is now saying he's postponing his, giving the deadline how we're going to meet South African president. This is something that requires, urgent step that the president should know what to do. If the envoys are to represent the president in fullness, in total, they should tell the president, look at the outcome of our inquiries, the outcome of our meeting. President should look at whatever is stable, reportable before him and take action immediately. People are dying, people are losing their businesses. And in Nigeria here, we also send a message. Because some people, there was what this added when I was in secondary school, I said, he that will not hear must be made to feel. If somebody refuses to hear, you make him to feel it. So we have to make South Africans to feel it. So they will know that Nigerians, they are not nuisance. They also have something all over Africa. But for my own ground, I would rather suggest it should be an African something. It should be an African affair. That African president should summon an urgent meeting of AU. That they should formalize a kind of procedure and processes on how to permanently deal with this issue, on how a country can send other members of the other country in their community packing, on the legal provisions, sanctions, laws, things, punishments, fines to be paid. It's not just, we can't just be coexisting like animals. You are in my country, I'm in your country. Whenever they kill people in your country, I'll start killing those in my country. It's animalistic. Whenever they burn your things in your country, I'll start burning the one in my country. That is archaic and antiquated and anachronistic. It shouldn't be what should be guiding this present 21st century in lawmaking. There should be a well-laid down procedures and rules on how to govern our coexistence as co-African countries. And penalties and punishment to be meted.
Thank you so much. We're going to go on a quick break. When we come back, we're going to still be talking to Joe Nwokedi, a legal practitioner, about the xenophobic attacks.
Welcome back to the Morning Show here on the Rise News. We still have with us a legal practitioner, Joe Nwokedi. Thank you for staying with us. Still focusing on xenophobic attacks in South Africa. Now, barely 24 hours after the special envoy sent by President Muhammadu Buhari to the country returned, we had news of armed youths in South Africa renewing calls for foreigners to leave. You mentioned something earlier, and I want to take you on the principle of reciprocity in international relations. Some people have misinterpreted that, considering the reprisal attacks we have seen in Nigeria pertaining to South African-owned businesses or linked businesses such as ShopRite and the rest of them. But do you think that we are exploring the principle of reciprocity enough as a country? Have we even explored that option at all, or you're saying we shouldn't even look at it, it shouldn't be on the table?
We cannot actually rule that out in its entirety, because bargaining power has to do with what you have. That will give you the capacity to negotiate and negotiate well. If it is lopsided, the other party would definitely not take you seriously. The point is that we have something that they need, and they have something that we need there. But the problem we have in Nigeria is that, do we have a complete document of what they have here? Do you know how many South Africans in Nigeria? Do you know how many places they are employed? Do you know how many private sector businesses they are into? And how many number of their people we have here? That's where we question so many things in Nigeria, like our immigration policies and then activities. Can we say this is exact number of South Africans we have in Nigeria? I was in Protea Hotel down this when it was with Kaywood, and I saw many people from South Africa. I never knew that in Nigeria, if not because I interacted with them in that hotel within that period. We might not even know. So the point now is that we have a lot of jobs to do in Nigeria. People are throwing up challenge to us as a country. For us to like come close to our own and then do a redefining of all our policies, all our issues, and and also our approach to global, national, and international issues. To know that we are actually a country, and because the way it is now, other countries are like looking up to look at maybe they're capitalizing on the fact that maybe you're not so much prepared to face some emergency that might just occur in any part of the world. The other time, Ghanaians threatened with closing shops. You know, the other time somebody was killed in Malaysia, a student was killed in Malaysia. So these are throwing up international dimension to our sovereignty, international dimension to our readiness to protect our people, to guide our people, to secure the business of our people, and also to look inwardly to know the capacity we have. They have embassies here. What are our capacities? What's our bargaining power? How many do we have a well-documented number of people from all the countries of the world in Nigeria? Do you know where they reside? Do you know the businesses they do? So when such things occur, you'll be able to communicate that country. Look, in as much as we might not be violent like your country, in as much as we might not be rude or be bestial, but remember we have this in our country. Look at the danger, the actions of your people, if not called to the other, will post your own existence, your own economy, your own country, and your own survival. When you don't send such strong, like the trade war going on between US and China, you see how both countries are like operating. You have this here, we have that one here, you do this one here, we do that one there. But beyond that, beyond that going forward, I feel like, look, African countries should rise. The time for African countries to actually stand up to like redefine how people of Africa coexist within Africa is now. Because I'm just saying, if South Africa can do this and get away, so many countries in Africa will be a very dangerous precedent. We'll take a clue from them. So what they should do now is like, look, it's an African problem. Because initially I thought they singled out Nigerians. When we closer look at the whole thing, we'll be like, they were referring Africans as foreigners. But in our own laws, in our own country here, government of Nigeria should do something. We may not be burning ShopRites and all the things we have, but we can nationalize them.
What exactly should we, because we've been saying government should do something.
Nigerian government should make a statement from the president. It's not side talk. It's not all Bears it's talking, Kanker, they're talking, this person talking. It's Nigerian government speaking as a country, saying enough is enough. It's Nigerian government demanding that South Africa should do something and giving them deadline to do that. The
Minister of Foreign Affairs did say a red line has been drawn.
No, let them demand action, and then if they fail within that deadline given to them, that we're going to like do something. You don't just plead with somebody that has not up his mind to do something. You come up with modalities that will enforce that person to either do it or face the consequences.
Well, a lot of people say it's an African problem. Cast your mind back to 83. We did the same for the Ghanaians. We gave them a deadline. We packed them up in the border.
Ghana must go.
Ghana must go.
But we never killed them.
No, we didn't kill them, but we packed them up in the border. We gave them a deadline that if you don't leave at this time, we're going to have dire consequences. We blamed them for our economic woes. We said, oh, we had mismanagement in our government, due to crude oil. We said they were the reasons. A lot of people are saying, is it not retribution coming to us? Because we have done it too. And have we duly begged and made atonement to what we have done to what we did to the Ghanaians? Have we begged them? Did we pay reparation to the Ghanaians? Did we pay compensation to the Ghanaians when we did that? We had Ghanaian businesses here and livelihoods that were truncated. Did we do that?
The problem is that we always people raise this issue, but as a sovereign nation, every sovereign nation has a right to decide what happens in the country. Well, there was an article I sent on the internet and the online, social media, that be like, some people have been like reposting them. I said, if South Africans don't want foreigners in their country, there's a way to go about it. You don't start looting their shops. You don't start killing them. You don't start burning tires. Come up with legislations. Come up with policies. Come up with laws. That'll make things difficult. If Nigerians don't want anybody in Nigeria, I'll be part of people that willingly volunteer to come up with laws.
But before that time, we're burning up Ghanaian stores. We're killing them too on the streets in the 80s.
That was when I think that happened in which regime?
In the 80s.
In the 80s, under which regime?
Under a civilian regime.
That means we ratified it. And we never killed them. Ghana must go. We said they should go.
No, but before then, there were assaults on Ghanaians.
Nobody killed them. We never recorded any Ghanaian being killed or Ghanaian being burnt in the streets of Nigeria. Because I remember in some of the places I knew that time, though I was very, very small, I can see them dancing in 1 or 2 or 3 places. I mean, small dance, in some of the clubs there, or cinema halls or whatever there. But they were not killed. Some of them are doing shoe work, shoemaker, whatever.
Most of them were the bulk
Most
of
them
our teachers.
were all those things. But we never killed them. We told them, look, you should go. I'll provide an avenue for them to go. The South Africans come up and say Nigerians should go. And then we in Nigeria here, we felt that, look, our people should come and they will leave South Africans and their businesses say, good and fine for us. If at time Nigerians did that thing, a Ghanaian said, okay, because Nigerians said the Ghanaians should go, Nigerians in Ghana should also return. Good and that. A sovereign nation has the right to determine and decide.
Can Africa grow if we keep chasing each other out of our country?
That's what I'm saying now. That it's time AU should come up with laws that will guide businesses in Africa, guide movements in Africa, guide investments in Africa, and guide lives in Africa. We have African Charter on human rights, human and people's rights. But they have a proviso, a caveat there. It's only if the country legislates on that, domesticates that, before it will become enforceable. Now, even if it's domesticated in that country, does it apply to foreigners? Can foreigners enjoy the same rights? Is it only a law that binds, because I know that a fundamental right as we have in the 4th schedule is binding on Nigerians. But does it bind Ghanaians in Nigeria? Can Ghanaians in Nigeria also go to court to enforce that right, although we have domesticated in our own constitution? Because I know South Africa is executing to that law. It's also binding South Africa. But does it bind foreigners there? Can foreigners go to court to also assert the legality of that law? These are the issues that AU meetings should address. That if you are ratifying these laws in your country, right to life, right to own property, right to movement, freedom of religion, and all that, they should also be accessible to foreigners, or Africans in your country should also enjoy the same rights. So when uprising or issues might arise, they should also seek your own local court for interpretation of that law and for that law to be used on them. But where you now have that law only applicable to your own people, then you now refer others as foreigners. When they commit offense, you can kill them. When your own people commit offense, you take them to court. That makes it illegal, unlawful, and I mean, somehow anachronistic.
And
that's just the point.
As we round up, with the latest developments, do you foresee an end to this anytime soon? I mean, South African youth are demanding that foreigners should leave their country.
I believe this has come to a climax of the whole thing. And when things get to this level, it will definitely have a solution. Either it impacts positively or negatively. So now it has thrown a kind of awareness, nationally and internationally. So a solution will come. The way our Nigerians will stay in South Africa, if at all we're going to stay, will be defined. And if they're coming home, the way South African business will be handled in Nigeria will be defined. So at this level, and this awareness has been created, and I believe solution will come. And the definite a kind of boundary between Nigerian policy, economy, and other things with South Africa and other African countries should be, looked into. And it has also offered us a good opportunity as a country to review our laws with respect to how we deal with international issues, with respect to how we deal with occurrences involving Nigerians, not only in South Africa. We're focusing in South Africa, but it might be another country tomorrow. It might even be US, it might be UK, it might even be any country, it might be Thailand or Taiwan or any place. So now the presidency should look into this issue. And look, we are facing challenges globally as regards our citizens. Even in Saudi Arabia, it's not recently that somebody was like gotten off the line because of drugs.
A very big thank you to you, Mr. Joe Nwokedi for this conversation. That brings us to the end of the show today.
Thank you so much. It's my pleasure.
I'm Rufai Hussaini.
I'm Adesu Moran.
And I'm Shaitan Atigari. Thank you for watching from our entire team here in Lagos. Enjoy the rest of your morning and, of course, the rest of your day. Goodbye.